Hi guys, hope you're well. In today's video I'm going to give you a quick overview of how you can use the Chord Track feature in Logic Pro 11 with the session keys and session bass to create some nice stuff like this. Very nice. Let's jump in. So as you can probably tell, that's God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. Amazing track, beautiful beautiful chords in there. And I'll just quickly take you through how that's been created here. What I've used is the Chord Track here, and I've actually created all of the chords in this song there. And I've then applied it to a session keyboard player using the Studio Grand, and a session bass player playing the classic full slap bass there. And so all of the MIDI data here, everything you're seeing, all these notes have been created by the Logic session musicians. And all I've had to do is set up the chord track and then tweak some of the settings. So I'll give you a quick overview of how you can create this yourself. Okay, so here we are, we're setting up a new project in Logic Pro, and what I'm going to do is start with create a new track. I'm going to choose session player, I'm going to choose keyboard player there. You get some options over here for the style of player. I'm going to leave that on freely, and I'm going to keep use default chord progressions for new regions unchecked, and we can let it open the editor there. I only want one track, so let's hit create. And so what that's done for us now is actually created an 8-bar section of music with the keyboard player. It's actually put some chords in there for us, so we can have a listen to that. Okay, so it's already creating some music for us, but that's not what we want it to play. So how do I get it to play the chords that we're looking for? Well, let's jump into that. So to program in our own chords, we're going to need to open up the chord track. So what I'm going to do here is I can just close the editor window now. I'm going to use E to close that down, and we need to open up what we call the global tracks. So I can push G there, or it's this icon up here to open and close the global tracks. And the global tracks contain things like our arrangement, marker, the tempo track there, the signature, and our chord track at the bottom. And this is the one that we're interested in. What I can do is just drag down a little bit there just to make that a bit bigger, so it's easier to see what I'm working on. What I want to do now is just click on the plus icon there, and that creates a chord. What it's done, it's actually created a chord for the full 8 bars of the MIDI track there, the session player track, and it's defaulted in this instance to the key of A. So we've got a few ways here that we can change the chord, and but what I want to do before that is just set up the kind of structure of the song. So to do that, I'm just going to click off of that chord selection box there. If I click in here, I'm going to select the chord itself, and what I can do, just like with any region, I'm going to hover over the end of it, and I'm just going to drag it down so it's just 1 bar long. And now what I'm going to do is hold down my Option key, and I'm going to drag a copy of that out to fill up the rest of the 8 bars that I'm going to be working with here. Okay, so now I've got 8 bars of A. That's going to be a bit uninspiring. What I need to do now is go in and change the chords to the chords that I'm looking for, and I'm going to be using God Only Knows as an example for this song here. And I can start that by double clicking on the first chord in the sequence. And you can see here it pops up with this kind of chord selection window, and you've got a couple of ways that you can program in the chords now. I can, if I knew exactly what the chords were, if it was my own track, I could just select the key of the chord, and I could select if it's a major, a minor. You can add embellishments there. You can add sort of like a seventh there. I could add a ninth, 7/9 chord, and you can click preview here to hear the chord that you've just created. So that's pretty cool, especially if you know the chords to your own track and you just want to quickly go and lay them down. But in this case, I'm playing God Only Knows. I couldn't actually tell you off the top of my head what the chords are. So there's another really cool way that you can set up the chords in here just using your MIDI keyboard. And I'll show you that now. So I'm just going to hide the inspector here by pushing I, and I will double click on the first chord in the sequence there. So I could select the chord, as I've mentioned there, by choosing the root note and then the variation. But now I've got my MIDI keyboard plugged in, I can actually play a chord. And I can play anything that I want, and Logic will do all the hard work for me. And even if that's some really kind of more weird and wonderful chords, I don't even have to think about it, I just have to play. So let's start programming in the chords for God Only Knows. So it starts here like this. Now Logic's picked that up as A with no third and a 6 and an 11th note chord. Now I would classify that really as D over A, but you know, it's the same thing essentially. So now we can start to move our way through the sequence and just program in all of the chords that we need. I click on the next chord in the sequence here, and it pulls up the chord selector there. So I'll just play the next chord. So it goes, there we go, B minor 6. And we carry on like that. So for this F sharp minor chord, there's actually a 7th added halfway through the bar. It goes something like this. So in order to program that in, what I'm going to need to do is just split that chord track region, and I can do that like this. Let me go back to the first chord there, the F sharp minor, and I'm going to just zoom in a little over here just to give me a bit more space on these tracks. I can literally put my playhead there in the middle of the track where I want it to change. Click on that, and I'm going to use Command and T, and that's now split that that region of the chord track into two. So here I've got my F sharp minor, and here what I need, if I double click on that, it goes from to F sharp minor 7. So that's in there now. I can move on to the next one. How's that go? So that's now an A with a flat 5th. Where are we? Okay, here we go. One of the nice things about this, you can mess around with the chords to find out where you need to be. So here we have a B with no third and a 6/11. Again, from my point of view, it looks more like an E over B is how I would refer to that, but it's picked up the right thing there. So let's move on to the next one. C diminished 7. B flat minor 7 with a flat 5th. So you can see very, very quickly there I've been able to just go through and program in that whole sequence. So that was just the first sort of 8 bars of it, and I showed you the demo for the full 16 bars of the loop. But what would I do now to get it to play these chords? So if I go back to the start and just hit the space bar, So I think that's pretty amazing that it's done that sort of all by itself, just with that chord information. It's added a lot of stuff there that was probably more advanced, more technical than I could play. And I think this is a really, really useful tool for anyone who's producing music and hasn't got access to musicians who may be able to help them out with this stuff, particularly for guitarists and the like who are maybe not quite as adept on the keys, but can get those keyboard chords programmed in there and then let Logic do the heavy lifting for you. So let's have a look at some of the options we've got to play around with that. So to start configuring the settings of the session player, we need to come into the edit window. I've noticed a really strange little bug here in Logic. I'm just going to share this with you just so you know what to do if this happens. At the moment I've got the piano roll showing. If I click on the session player region, it comes up here and I can see chords over here. I can see all of my options, but I'm actually missing a drop-down menu there, which is it gives me control and flexibility over the style of the player. And you can click off of on and off of that. And if you come into it from the, if you click off here, come into it from session player being selected here in the edit window, it appears. But if you click off of that, and let's say I was back on the piano roll, and I now click on the region, it's not available. So a little odd thing there in Logic just to make you aware of. Come in, make sure session player is selected, and here we go. So now I can start to play around with some of the settings. So the first thing to check in here is that you want to make sure that under chords that follow global chord track is selected. And that means that any changes I make up here will be immediately reflected in the music down here. And I can demonstrate that by, let's say I just change this now to a B chord, and that would sound a bit weird, not what I want, but you can see that if you did identify any mistakes, anything you wanted to tweak, play around with in there, it immediately responds to that. So that's quite cool. And under the preset here, this is kind of like the style. It gives you an initial kind of view of how the session musician is interpreting the chords, and this can give you some inspiration if you play around with it. So we've got loads of options in here. Big chords, let's try that. I'm just going to cycle this section now by using U there. I've turned my metronome off with K because that was just getting in the way a little bit. Okay, so big chords, probably a bit too big for me, but let's have a listen to Calm and Steady. Now that might be really nice as a bit of a background kind of accompaniment if you had some other instrumentation in there. It's a very stripped down version of it using Calm and Steady there. Let's have a listen through to a few more. We've got, say, fluid chords. Okay, I'm not so keen on what that's doing there. Journey's End, let's try that. You see what that's doing now is actually playing just with the left hand. Let's try Keep Moving. All very, very nice. So I think I had tried this one earlier, So Many Questions. Which seems to be nicely in keeping with the track. So now we've got that locked in on a preset that we like, what we can do is start playing around with some of these options as well. And you can see we've got two simple sliders here, one for the complexity. So if I slide that all the way up, and you can see this is immediately kind of dynamically changing to what I've selected there. So this will be a lot more complex now. Okay, so we can also try the intensity. So this is going to be, you know, how loud we're playing effectively. And this will dynamically change as it's playing through the track, so you can just loop the section and play around with these settings until you find something you like. Another thing to notice here is we come into this section, we've got the left hand and right hand settings here, and you can choose whether or not just the left hand is playing by clicking these on and off. So you can see here we've only got the left hand playing, the voicing is for the root only, and it's following the right hand in style. So all we've got now is a bass note with the root, but you can change this. You could change it to root and fifth. That's going to add a little bit more flavour in there if we choose root, fifth and octave. You can also choose the different styles. So there it's just following the right hand. We could have sustain only, and that's just going to give you a single long note for each chord. Or you can have it do something more complex. I'm just going to put that back to root only and follow right hand again. And now let's just have a look at what we can do with the right hand. So you can see here we've got full chord voicing with minimal movement, fixed inversions there, but we've got loads of different choices in here. So let's just try a couple of these. So 2 voice there, a slightly stripped back version there. Let's try 3 voice. You can see it's added a 3rd note into the right hand there. 4 plus voice, let's try that. Slightly more complex inversions of the chords. What we can also do is choose the movement on the right hand. It's very static at the moment, it's not moving around much, but if we change that from minimal to, let's say, a large range, go to the opposite end. Let's try that with a different voicing. Might give us a bit more option if we add some more notes in there. And these are all completely dynamically generated. At any point you can come over here and click regenerate, and using those settings it will give you another variation. So I'm just going to go back to both hands being on there, fixed inversions, and let's leave it on a small range. You can also choose, anyone who's familiar with the drummer tracks, fill amount, so you can add that in as how many kind of embellishments you're going to get. So that could be doing some nice stuff in there. And how complex the fills are. Nice. So another quick thing to mention is that you've actually got different styles of keyboard player. These are different presets as to how the session keyboard player is going to be interpreting the chords, but we've actually got it set to freely here. But we can choose different options. So we can say we want broken chords, block chords, arpeggiated, or a simple pad. So if I were to choose arpeggiated, it comes up now and asks me if I wanted to change the session player. And let's have a listen to what that's done. Okay, what if we wanted a simple pad? Let's have a listen to that. And what this has also done for us is just changed some of the options we've got here. So it's actually changed the instrument, and we could come in and put whatever synth sound we wanted to that. It will play any of Logic's virtual instruments for us, but it gives us different options in the presets. So again, some really, really cool stuff in there for you to play around with. So I've just reverted back to our Freely style now for the song God Only Knows. Let's quickly add a bass player in there and just play around with some of those settings just to see how powerful these tools really are. So what I want to do is come in now and just choose to add a new track. It pops up with a create new track window, and I want a session player again, but this time I want to choose bass player. And again, we've got different styles here, and what I'm going to choose is let's say a roots upright bass there. We'll leave everything else off there as it was set up before, one track, and hit create. And let's see what that sounds like. We've got all the same kind of options now for the complexity, for the intensity. For how many fills we're getting, how complex they are. For the different presets we can try. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I think the session musician options in Logic Pro 11 are really, really cool feature. And the chord track, as you've seen, is really easy to program. And so you can quickly get ideas together, get more embellishments that will enhance your tracks, particularly if you're not so hot on the keys. You can just program them in and it will do the heavy lifting for you. So if you enjoyed that, please do like and subscribe. We'll be doing tons more stuff on the session musicians. There's a lot of depth in there and I really want to go into that in a bit more detail in other videos, but for the time being, thanks for watching and we'll see you on the next one.